Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Chris here, CG Aviator, with a first look of this unusual helicopter, the Alouette III. This is brought to Microsoft Flight Sim by Taog. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It's available on flightsim.to for I think £25. All the links will be in the description below. I'm not sure what their intent is in terms of releasing with other third-party resellers or the marketplace and Xbox, so stay tuned for that and any updates via social media. But in this video, I will show you the inside, the outside, the animations, the sounds, the PBR, the different features, and there are loads of different features. There's a couple of different flavors in terms of wheeled versus floats. I'll run through a quick startup, and it's fairly simple. I'll also include the manual and the liveries to take a look at. There's lots to see there, and we'll take it for a flight to put it through its paces, as I love to do. This is a version 1.0 release, so that means that the developer has released it as a fully fledged product, not early access. But that said, he is taking all the feedback he's had so far and anything that you put in the comments below, and hopefully I'll update this in due course. Just for info, we're here at Saint-Tropez, also known as La Mole. I think it's LFTZ, not sure. Anyway, I'll put a link for that in the description below. It's by Aerosoft, and it's south of France, Saint-Tropez. Very nice area to fly in. The overall quality of the model is pretty good. It's not up there with the big name brands, I would say. You can notice some jaggedy lines, a little bit of low poly count. You'll see some of that on the outside and the inside. But on a cursory glance and just looking from outside at the usual distances, it looks not too bad at all. And there's a fair bit of quality going, or attention to detail going in terms of the grime. And this is a 1960s type helicopter. I think it operated through 70s, 80s, bit of the 90s. I'm not sure if they're still in service, but if you do know, let me know in the comments below. Areas that I really like would be the engine. The PBR texturing on here is really nice. The grills on the air intakes, the silver mesh there looks really nice indeed. But just underneath there, you can see where the quality is a little bit lower with the jagged lines in the panel gaps. This is the basic configuration. There are lots of extra bells and whistles that we can add to the outside, and we'll do that once we jump in the cockpit. There are 18 liveries available for the wheeled version. Gives you a hint of who operates them. So the gendarmerie, so police, armée de terre, which is just your basic army stuff, glacier, security. They've got Portuguese here. Flight for Life is quite a famous one. A bit of Tokyo, Denmark, Canada, India, Irish, and a civilian one, which looks to be American registered. So lots of different liveries there. And for the floats version, you get a Marine Nationale floats, a Denmark, and a Canadian Coast Guard. So this is the manual, and I wasn't even expecting there to be one, let alone one that's actually quite well put together. So let's have a quick scan through so you can see what you're getting here. There's a nice bit of background, bit of how it's constructed, flight characteristics, instrument overview on what does what, which is nice. It's a very simple aircraft to fly, I have to say, and I'll run through a quick startup shortly. Bit on the rotor blades, engine and APU. There is a winch option. I'll talk about that more in a moment. Visibility switches are really nice. So if you haven't seen my review of the H125 by Cowan Sim, a lot of it was done, all the animations and the additional features were done via the weights and balance page. This has lots of switches that give you these options, and we'll go through those in cockpit. Quick startup. Not a checklist per se, but it's very simple. Bit more on the visibility. And there are some known issues, a bit of axis integration, and I'll talk about some of that when we're flying. So here we are in the cockpit of the Alouette, and I have to say the first thing that strikes me is the visibility. I mean, check that out. So if you want to go sightseeing in a helicopter, this is probably the way forward. Awesome stuff. Quality-wise, you can see it all looks pretty good. Bit of wear and tear, decent texturing, decent modeling. Looks to be decent poly count. Not too rough around the edges. You've got your standard instrumentation, Garmin's, bits and pieces there. I particularly like the rudder pedals. I did it already. Rudder pedals, anti-torque pedals, cyclic, collective. Right, I do know what they're called, but if I call them the wrong things, then you'll have to let me off. Now, the only place that the quality kind of goes down a little bit is if we look into the overhead panel. You can see like low poly count in terms of the rotary knobs and some of the switches up there. But it doesn't really detract from the whole thing because you're looking this way for about 90% of the time. So down in the center console, you see this row of visibility switches, and this gives you the option to add different things to the outside and inside of your helicopter. If you see my Cowan Simulations H125 video, a lot of the additional features were enabled using the weight page of Microsoft Flight Sim. But I much prefer having just a little panel where you can click things to add them, just to make it really simple. So we'll go ahead and add some skis, add the winch, equipment box, HEMS configuration, flotation pods. We'll do some of the operator and winch once we're airborne, megaphones, side steps, big antenna, panel shader, and trapdoor. So let's have a look at what they look like. So what a difference that makes. You see the big antenna on the front, the mirrors look really nice, the skis are awesome. See the megaphones just on the underside of the front doors there. See the flotation pods on the back side just underneath the engine. You can also see the winches on the top. We can add an operator that can lower him down as well, which is kind of cool. There's the basket on the outside, got side steps as well. So there's lots of extra features that you can add really easily. And I think that looks the absolute business. So with the HEMS option enabled, you can see we now have a stretcher behind the front seat and some extra equipment. There are no people enabled inside, unfortunately. You can see them from the outside, but even with the weight and balance passenger option, you can't see the extra people inside, so hopefully they add them later. But the quality overall is really nice. And it's just easy as switching one of these visibility switches to remove the HEMS version. Done. There's another thing down to the lower left, which is a trapdoor. And if I use my custom camera view to go whoop, just here, sat in the back seat. This is what it looks like in the back seat, by the way. I mean, the visibility, look at that. Look at that. That's awesome. But down to the lower left, we have a trapdoor, which is cool. I don't know what you'd use it for. I mean, tell me in the comments if you know, but it looks cool. All right, I think it's about time to get this thing flying, isn't it? Right, where's that click spot for the door? There it is. Okay, time to switch this thing on and take it for a flight. It is pretty simple. So down to the lower center, we have a fuel valve, which will push forwards. Park and brake is here. Now, for the life of me, I can't read the French and I don't know which is on, but that'll do. Now, spoiler alert, look away if you don't want the spoiler. But here's a little Easter egg. If you need to learn how to fly a helicopter, a bit of Heli Simmer branding. Good stuff. Okay, so that's the fuel valve. The rotor brake is here. If you pull the rotor brake, you can see the rotor blades, the shadows of rotor blades have actually stopped. So rotor brake is in. And I think that's kind of it on the panel there. If we look to the overhead panel, we have battery, alternator, avionics, maybe some position lights. And now that we've got some power enabled, switch the fuel boost pump on and start it up. That sounds good. Okay, start switches are automatically gone down, so the starter has finished doing its thing. The RPM should go up to, I think that's 19,500 eventually. And the manual suggests at this point, you then go to the governor and move that forward slowly. So you can see the rotor blades, or the shadow there, hasn't started rotating yet. So this is a click and drag. It says do it slowly, but let's just get it done. What a racket. So here's a top tip for you. At the moment, there are issues with how it works in terms of the governor, RPM, all that stuff. So if you have your axis bound to prop pitch control, as I have, then you may find that the helicopter won't lift off, even though all the switches are in the right place. Okay, so if you have external or peripherals with axes assigned to them, just be careful they're at max so that you don't have any issues taking off. There we go. I think we're now started up. Overhead panel. Let's do some pitot, gyro, anti-cols, panel lights. Landing lights. Oh, the landing light, by the way, is a scroll. There we go. All right. I mean, how good does that look? I have to say, I'm pretty impressed right now. All right, I believe it is time to get flying, so let's go do some of that stuff. So in terms of the flying, let's some power on. Bit of right rudder, lots of right rudder required. And fairly stable. I really like the fact that there's some shudder on the airframe, so that's nice. It is nice and smooth, it's not twitchy. If I centralize the rudder pedals like now, see, actually it goes around pretty quickly. Now there is a little bug at the moment that they are going to fix, in that you need right rudder at slow speeds. Right rudder, you know what I mean. But as soon as you get above about 40 kilometers per hour, and the speedo is in kilometers per hour, then actually you don't need any anti-torque. Which is not quite right. It should be a little bit more linear and certainly go to a slightly higher speed. But that does mean that it is very stable to fly. So if I continue on this way, I haven't even set my GPS up, but I know which way I'm going. The coast is to the south and east, so that's where we're headed. And we'll go and take it through some regimes like VRS. I'll see what happens when I try and auto-rotate, perhaps. And we'll do the winch operator. But I mean, look at the visibility we have around here. It looks fantastic. Absolutely love it. Oh, I wonder... Ah, so the volume doesn't change when the trapdoor's open. It's night and day when it comes to sound and opening the door. Now, if I add the operator, which I think is the guy in the middle, no. Where's the operator? Operator outside, got it. There he is. So let's try and lower him down. I know we're still going 130 kilometers an hour, but he doesn't care. Get the camera ready. There we go. Now to lower the winch operator, and there's no keybind yet, although I have put in a request for one. It's this knob here. Ooh. And if you can get your camera outside quick enough, you'll see him go down. He's a little bit wobbly, and you can fly him into the ground. He just goes subterranean, but at least you have a winch operator, which is pretty cool. And actually, if I can fly from the rear seat... Oh, that's cool. Need a pilot. That's very cool. Alright, let's put the guy back up, because he's probably not enjoying himself going that fast. Oh. Right, mate, you're done. You can come inside. Lovely stuff. Okay, so let's talk flight dynamics in this. Oh, and sounds, by the way. Listen to that blade slap. That sounds good. So in terms of roll, that's full scale roll left and right. So it's sluggish, which I like, because it's an old helicopter. This is 1960s, 70s, 80s. It's an old helicopter. Pitch is a lot more sensitive. Whoop, definitely on the pitch back. And yaw is a limitation at the moment, so I think that'll be increased. I mean, I know we're high speed now, but at any rate, until you get down to about 50 kilometers an hour, it's limited in its input. But that is one for the update. Aerobatically, I mean, it's not. Let's face it. It is not an aerobatic helicopter. I know, but it has to be done. Just has to be done. Wasn't the best loop. Wasn't the worst. If you want to throw it around, you can, of course. It is just a sim. It's quite fun. Alright, that's enough of the aerobatics. So we talked flight dynamics. Let's talk VRS, or, well, not necessarily VRS. Let's talk what happens when you do bad things in the helicopter. So if I put full power in, full right anti-torque, and I can't keep it straight, so what I have to do is take some power off. There we go, that's full right anti-torque, and as much power as I can to get climbing as quickly as I can. And we are about 3.5 to 4,000 feet a minute. So now that we're up here, if I select the collective all the way down, so we are less than 40 knots forward speed. We are minus 4,000 feet a minute, which is pretty quick for a helicopter. If I put full power in now, the right rudder, we are 3,000 feet a minute. The RPM took a dip and is starting to recover. So I'm not sure if VRS is simulated here. Now, I'm not a VRS expert, but I do that just so that you can see how the helicopter handles. Whether it's realistic or not, I'll have to leave to the professionals. But if you slam full power in, it takes a while, the RPM drops, but it still recovers. So VRS, in that sense, doesn't seem to be modelled, but you still need to be smooth on the controls. Now, in terms of auto-rotating in this, now the governor is what I would expect to be the throttle. But I'm not even going to bother trying that right now, because if I do that, I'll lose control of the aircraft. So I'm not entirely sure if auto-rotating is possible. I'll save it till the end, and I'll put a link in the chapters so that I don't have to faff around with restarting it. And just see what happens when I switch the engine off and dump the collective. We'll see if we can do it that way. So what I'll do now is I'll remove some lights. Let's take the lights down and see what the night lighting looks like. Yeah, 1:04 p.m. That is very green. That is aggressively green. That's not too bad. So that is the night lighting. I haven't dug around for any other night lighting in cockpit, but I think that's kind of it. It's subtle. Let's call it subtle. That landing light's pretty bright though. So for those of you that like to fly from the outside, that's what this looks like. Other than the annoying fields keep popping up, the scenery is lovely. It does look the business. I mean, look at that. Oh, we should really do a loop, shouldn't we, from the outside? Let's give that a go. This could end very, very badly. There we go. I would say in doing that you can hear the looping of the blade slap sound, so that's a little lower on the quality side. Alright, it is time. It is time. Let's switch the engine off and see if we can auto-rotate this thing somewhere. He says. Okay, what's the best way of doing this? Fuel valve, I guess. That'll do it. Collective down. Where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? A road? Maybe? There's a field. Okay. All right. Uh-oh. It does drop like a brick. Okay, it probably wouldn't be usable again. But I could probably walk away with it with a sore back. Maybe. So after that catastrophic landing, and last but not least, here we are in the float version. And it looks the business. Of course, with this helicopter, you're going to want to put it in the water and have some fun with it. Now, there is a slight bug with it at the moment. Again, another work in progress element, and that's the interaction with the water. So we'll put it down and show you what happens. But largely, it doesn't say stay still unless you turn the governor right down, i.e. the RPM, because otherwise you go around and around like a crazy thing. So let's show you what that looks like. Whilst I have some fun skimming the water. That's kind of fun. I didn't mean to touch down with such a high forward speed, but that was fun. So we've got the right rudder in. And now with the anti-torque pedal centralized, that's what you do. So let's just take that out. Then if you put the right anti-torque in, you end up just going backwards, back and left. And I can't, for the life of me, stop it happening. But again, I say minor, that's pretty extreme when it comes to having a float version. But again, one of those things to bear in mind, and hopefully they'll get it fixed in short order. So that is the end of this first look video. Let me know in the comments below what you think. It is a version 1.0, but certainly some things do need a little bit of cleaning up. The developer is actively pursuing those updates and listening to feedback, so that is all good stuff. Overall, considering this is a relatively small developer, the quality is brilliant. The price point, I think, reflects that nicely, and it is affordable. But yeah, this was a nice little helicopter to fly around. But until the next time, take care and fly safe.